Hello, Asha Lemmie, and welcome to Romania, a virtual country right now for you. So, and konnichiwa, I don't know if I said it right, but
You
anyway.
did, that was great.
Okay. So, I have your book. It's here, the 500 pages book, which I assure you, I just loved it, really. And I want to show you something. My bookmarks for your book are this. Look.
Oh,
They are from Japan. This is from Kyoto, okay, and this is from Tokyo. So it went okay with your book. So we are talking about 50 words for rain, which was translated into Romanian at Trei Publishing House. And I so much want people to read this beautiful fiction. Congratulations.
So much.
So you are so young. And you are so young, and your book had a huge success in US. I don't even know how to start, but how did this start for you? Because you started writing at 16 years old. So tell us the story.
So I wrote the first 3 chapters when I was 16, but I actually didn't write the rest of the novel until after I had graduated from university. And, I think that I just kind of forgot how much I used to want to be a writer. I was focused on doing something that made more sense, I think. Everyone says, oh, don't be a writer. That's so hard. You'll never make it.
You made it.
But then I realized that you have to do what makes you happy in life. So I picked it back up and I did some more research and I was able to finish it. And then I was essentially able to, have a lot of luck. And now I'm here.
But the first chapters in the book were written when you were 16, and then, okay, a few years came later and you wrote. When did you write this? I mean, you were 16, you were at school.
I wasn't paying very much attention in school. That's why. So I was supposed to be paying attention in school, but I was writing this instead.
So how did this character, Nori, we will talk about her, how did this appear in your mind? I mean, you are 16 and you said at one point, okay, I'm going to write a story about this character whose name is Nori. What inspired you, actually?
That's such a hard question because I don't have just one answer, but I think I really wanted to write a story about someone who was caught between 2 different worlds and a world that was changing. The period immediately surrounding like World War II has always been really fascinating to me because it's considered the beginning of the modern era. And so if you look at, the whole concept of tradition, and if you look at now the modern world that we live in, a lot of that started around that time period. So I just thought that it was a really ripe setting for a book.
We should talk a little about you because you chose as a place for the action in your novel, Japan. So it's all about Japan, about Kyoto, about Tokyo. Of course, we go to Paris, we go to London a little in the novel. But you chose Japan. Why Japan?
So my godmother is from Japan. She's an immigrant and we are pretty close. And growing up, she always used to bring me things from Japan, and that kind of got me interested. Like she'd bring me toys and books and movies and candy. And when I was probably about maybe 12 or 13, I started learning the language. And then I was lucky enough to spend some time there. And I have some close relationships there. And, when I broached the topic of writing this book to them, they were all really excited about it and supportive.
So somehow I read one interview of yours, and you said at one point that you were, as a child, a weird, unhappy, socially isolated child with few friends, and you read a lot. And sorry for saying that, but you were so sweet, just like Nori when she was a little girl. So, do you think that she's somehow you when you were a child, trying to find an identity in a family?
I see a lot of similarities. I didn't have it nearly as bad as she did, to be honest. But she's also not me. She's a character who I relate to, but she's not me. She's a lot more patient than I am. I am not a patient person at all. And she's very forgiving, which is something that I'm still learning. So I think she's, in a way, who I am, and in another way, she's who I want to be.
So let's tell to your future readers that the story in 50 words for Rain starts after the World War II, the Second World War in Japan, in the 50s. It all starts there. There is a mother and her daughter, and the mother abandons the daughter, Nori or Noriko Kamiza, from the famous family in Kyoto, Kamiza. And we get to know this little girl, and I would like you to introduce to your readers, who's Nori? What's her story?
Nori, full name Noriko, is the mixed race daughter of a noble Japanese family and a Black American GI. Her parents were in love, and they had an affair that resulted in Nori. Her mother has now abandoned her at the age of 8 outside of her maternal grandparents' estate, and now she is left to be raised by her grandparents, particularly her grandmother, who is less than happy about this surprise. So that's how the story starts, and Nori is kept in isolation. She's not allowed to go out into society and have friends and have connections. And so her first real connection is the arrival of her older half-brother, Akira. And I would say that their relationship is really the beating heart of the story.
It's a very beautiful story between two half-siblings, because, well, we won't tell very much, but they only have the same mother. And this is a very beautiful description of their relation, and you have a very poetic way of describing this relation. And we have also music. We know already music connects very well people, and music is what connects very, very much Nori and her brother Akira. So this is important because you studied opera, you studied classical music.
I did.
How is this musical relation between these two siblings? It's important for the book. It's very important. Music is from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, so I love classical music. I don't think that's much of a surprise after reading the book. I love classical music. It was a huge part of my life, and it's something that I've always found very comforting. I think music is a good way to communicate when words fail. And I also think that it's a universal language. Yes. You don't need to really understand, even if the music has words, you don't necessarily need to know what they mean to understand the emotion behind them. And I think that for Nori and Akira, they're so different. They're in very different positions in society. He's legitimate, she's illegitimate. He's a boy, she's a girl. He is part of the ethnic majority, she is mixed. And they have all these these opposites, and yet they find this tremendous thing to bond over. I think at some point in the book, Nori refers to learning to play the violin as building a bridge to him. Yeah. She's trying to reach him, and that's the thing that he cares about the most. So it was really fun for me to get to include that element in the book.
The fate of Nori is a very sad one, really. I mean, it's really sad. And she's kept by her grandmother in the attic of a house.
Yes.
For a few years. And I'll say that because of the color of her skin, because she was actually Japanese, but half Japanese with an Afro-American father, she receives daily chemical baths. So I found that was a horror. She didn't even was allowed to go to the sun because the sun, could have hurt her skin. This is horror. So I would like to talk a little with you about this character, her grandmother, Yuko. It's a character I hate, really. I mean, really.
I really that to be liked. I don't think
she's so villain. She's mean. She's cruel. She's bad. Okay, so why is she so bad, Yuko?
So, I don't like her, but she really fascinates me as a character because I think she's a product of her time. And I think she's a product of her environment. I also think that she's a woman who has a lot of power in a time and in a place where power was considered for men. I think Yuko feels like she has to be ruthless or people will not respect her. She can't show any weakness, I think, in her mind. I also think what you have to understand about Yuko is that she has a God complex. She's deeply narcissistic. She really thinks that what she wants is divine. It's destiny. It has to happen exactly the way that she has planned. And that hasn't always worked, right? Because she had a plan for her own daughter.
Yes.
And that did not work out. And I think Yuko has a lot of rage, not at Nori, at her daughter, but her daughter is gone. So who has to receive the punishment? Nori.
Did you study about, because I wondered while reading the book, if this kind of tradition with a woman not having the right to ask questions, not having to keep silent all the time, if it still exists. I mean, you probably read Memoir of Geisha, and you kind of know how things went out there in Japan. But did you study about these traditions in Japan? About
Yeah, so I mean, I have had some cultural immersion and some knowledge of that, and I think it's not just Japan specifically. This is a theme I kept noticing. This is a theme across European countries, Asian countries, African countries. This whole idea that it is a woman's role to be quiet. Don't even now. Don't be too loud. Don't take up too much space. Men don't like that. You can be successful, but not too successful, because you can never be more successful than the man, because it will make him feel bad. I still think most places in the world run on more of a male-dominated patriarchal system. Obviously, things have improved, but I think, it's something that power is never relinquished freely. So whether it's sex, whether it's race, whether it's class, you are always going to have people who have decided that they are superior. And they're never going to let that go without a fight.
You write in your book, actually it's Nori's mother who says it is good for a woman to learn silence. If a woman knows nothing else, she should know how to be silent. It's actually what you said.
I think maybe Nori's mother was trying to protect her with that advice. I think that advice shows that she knows maybe what Nori's life is going to be, and that it's not going to be easy. And I think this advice is ultimately meant with love, because it's advice that she didn't exactly take. You know, Nori's mother tried to buck the system, and it didn't work out so well for her.
Yes.
So I think maybe telling her daughter, just do what they tell you, keep your head down, be quiet. That is advice that I see that a lot of women pass down to their daughters. Even if it was advice that they didn't want to take.
Yeah.
I think this idea that we pass down things to our children that hurt us when we were children, I've always been so fascinated by that phenomenon of generational trauma.
Yeah. And all she has, it's quite, I mean, God is in the novel from the beginning till the end, and God for Nori is her escape at one point, because and I love this quote. I have to read it for the readers. Her favorite thing about God was that he was the one person she was allowed to ask questions. In fact, this privilege delighted her so much that she hardly even minded that nobody answered her. I find it really poetic and really true about her life. She had no one to talk to. Was this important for you to keep God in this story, because you always write about him?
You know, I definitely think there's Christianity is not the dominant religion in Japan. It's probably only
Yes,
about,
that's interesting. Yeah.
but I did choose to make the Kamiza family converts to Roman Catholicism, because I know someone who her family was Roman Catholic, and they kept it hugely secret. They didn't want to be ostracized. Anything outside of the norm would get you ostracized, especially back then. So they really kept it under wraps. And actually, the former Empress of Japan was born into a Roman Catholic family.
Yeah.
And when she married the heir to the throne, she had to give that up. She had to convert, or she wouldn't have been allowed to marry him. And I thought that was really interesting. I really liked exploring the contrast between the image that the Kamiza family tries to portray on the outside, is that they're this super noble traditional family, and on the inside things are very different, right? They have all of these secrets. But I think for Nori, she's just happy that there's something out there that makes her feel less alone.
Since you mentioned about the hidden face of Kamiza family, they sold Nori to a family, and Nori is sent in a brothel where she meets a madam, because we have to have a madam in a brothel, Kiyomi. And because I remembered Kiyomi right now, you build your novel from multiple voices, with multiple voices. I mean, we don't have only your story as a reader, but there are characters telling the stories in the novel, like a journal of every character. And we have kind of a journal of Kiyomi, or of Akiko-san, who took care of Nori when she was little, and she comes back at the end. Yes. Did you know from the beginning that you would build your novel like this, with the journal pages of other characters?
Actually, the different perspectives I knew I needed to do, because I think I wanted the reader to get a bigger picture. Because Nori is so young, and also because she's intentionally kept in the dark and isolated so much of the time. I think that we needed those other more mature perspectives to give the reader a better idea of different sides to the story. But the diary entries came later. I realized that even though the mother is not physically present past the first couple of pages, she casts a huge shadow over the lives of her children. she's still a character even when she's not there. So the diaries kind of allow us, I think, to see things from her perspective a little bit more and to humanize her. I think there are evil people in the world. I do. I think some people are just not good people. But I think it's far more common for people to simply be selfish and flawed. And I think you could say that of Nori's mother. It's not that she has no redeemable qualities, because I think that she does. But I think ultimately she's just someone who shouldn't really have been a mother.
Yes, that's true. I try not to make a spoiler, of course, because the end shocked me. We'll talk about the end. But because at some point in the novel, there is something very important happening, okay, who changes a lot to your character, Nori. And there's one letter towards the end Nori receives from Japan. She's at that time she's in London with a friend, Alice, so on. And that's why I say that Yuko, she's bitchy. I mean, she's, because in the end, Yuko did something and Nori comes back in Japan and everything changes. Oh my God, so much. Did you know at the beginning, the end of the novel? Because it's shocking for the reader. I mean, I understand it. I can find arguments. It's okay.
I knew about the ending, and I also knew that not everyone was going to like the ending. I knew it. And even when, we were in the editorial process with my publisher, it was like 50-50. People were very torn. Some people really wanted me to go in a more traditional direction, and some people said, no, if you think about it, I think it makes more sense that it ends this way. I think
it makes.
Thematically, I think it makes more sense. That doesn't mean they were happy about it. To me, this is the only ending I ever considered. The ending is not designed. I actually don't think of it as being sad. So I don't think it's happy per se, but I think that there's happiness and sadness in it. And I think that that's life. I think whatever door you open, you're closing another one, even if it's a door that you're ready to walk through.
I want to say that to you. You have a very beautiful way of writing.
Thank you.
You have so much imagination. I read a lot. When I say I read a lot, I mean I really read a lot. So your book is in my top 10 from these 2 years of pandemics. So really, it captivated me a lot. And I would like in the end to talk a little about the name, because I wrote on Facebook about all the names of rain in Japan, ame, and all the 50 words. Why did you choose this title? I mean, 50 words for rain. What does all these words mean in your novel?
So the title comes from a saying, there are 50 words to describe rain in Japanese because it rains so often in Japan. This is something you can see pop up across multiple cultures and languages. In Scotland and Ireland, there's also apparently 50 words for rain. The Inuit people have 50 words for snow. So I just thought that was it's such a good metaphor. It really is, for the different kinds of adversity that all of us go through in our lives. So I think it's important to learn to see the differences and the nuances, and even in the rain, to try to find the joy.
That's a beautiful metaphor. So I would like to tell you something. I finished the book, and then at the end of a novel, you have sometimes a chapter with gratitude for people who helped the writer. And this is so beautiful. You put it so beautifully in words. No, really, it's very touching. And you say in the end, I would like to thank the little girl I was once because she survived the rain. This is very beautiful. That's why I said to you at the beginning that probably there's a little Nori in you. That made me think that. I would like in the end you to send a message for the Romanian readers. I'm sure they will love this. I mean, it's top fiction. It's gorgeous. I loved it. So if you can send them a message about your book.
I think it's important to remember that whatever you're going through right now is a chapter. It's not the book. The book is being written every day, and the only thing you have real control over is what you're going to do next. You can't control what happens to you. You can't control what color you're born. You can't control who your parents are. But when you reach a point where you accept that you are going to define yourself based off of the things you can control and not off of the things you can't, things get a lot easier.
That's beautiful. So once again, omedeto, which I think it's congratulations in Japanese.
Yes.
Omedeto. So thank you very much. You are gifted in writing.
Thank you so much.
Really, it's what you should do all your life without any regret.
No.
It's perfect fiction. Thank you so much, Asha. It was nice to meet you. So
thank you.
The book and my little geisha says hi. And hugs, and just to take care of you.
You as well. Thank you for your time.